Hello everybody, it's Sherry with the CGH Health Foundation, and welcome back to another one of our What's Cooking CGH videos. I'm a health coach with the CGH Health Foundation, and so when I cook for myself, I try to find healthy recipes, and I also enjoy making things that are easy, don't take a whole lot of time, have very simple ingredients or not very many ingredients. Today I'm going to be showing you how to prepare tofu. And I know that some people are just going to stop listening right at this point, but I hope you'll give me a chance to show you how you can use tofu and why it is a good choice in terms of food. Tofu was voted the most hated food in America a few years ago, and I don't think it deserves that reputation. What is tofu, first of all? So it's the same process as we use in making cheese, in that it is milk, but it's soy milk instead of cow's milk, that is treated and firms up. And there are different varieties of tofu and different firmnesses of tofu, just like there are different varieties of cheese and different firmnesses of cheese. The kinds of tofu that you're going to find on the shelf in your grocery store, there's basically two kinds. And the first of those is a silken tofu. And this one is shelf stable, so it's not going to be in the refrigerator section. And the texture of this one is very soft. Even though this one says firm, it comes in soft and medium and firm. But think of it as a texture of yogurt, maybe. And this one doesn't have to be cooked. You can use it for things. But that creamy texture lends itself to things like puddings and custards, quiches, and that kind of thing. So that is one of them, and I always have a package of this. You can even use it to throw it in smoothies. And the reason it makes a good choice for that kind of stuff is that tofu is very high in protein. And so it is a good plant protein, so it doesn't have saturated fat. That makes it a benefit. It is very low in cholesterol, doesn't have any cholesterol because it comes from a soybean, right, from soybean milk. Low in sodium. Most tofus can be a good source of calcium as well. So it's a healthy food, and I think we should be eating more of it. The other kind of tofu that you will find comes in a tub. It's in the refrigerator section. And it comes in different firmnesses, also different textures. It's usually going to be in water or a brine solution. And so if you bought feta cheese or some mozzarella cheese that comes in the brine, that water suspension is just designed to keep the tofu as fresh as possible. And so this is the one I'm going to be using today, and I have an extra firm tofu, and I do tend to use firm and extra firm a lot. Tofu can be cooked in so many different ways. You know, with the silken tofu, like I said, don't have to cook it at all. You can eat it raw, and you can eat this tofu raw also. But depending on the firmness, so this type of tofu, if I were to get a firm tofu or even a medium tofu, one of my favorite things to make with it is a scramble, like scrambled eggs. And so that's what I use this tofu for. I also use firm tofu to make a filling for a lasagna. It crumbles up. So that is another application for it. An easy way to make tofu is just to pan fry it, cut it into little chunks, and pan fry it. You can even grill tofu. The recipe I'm going to be making today is actually going to be a baked tofu. Now this tofu that's in water, all tofus, excuse me, do contain quite a bit of water. And if you don't remove some of the water, your end result can get kind of soggy. So for most tofus, you're going to have to drain them and press them a little bit. And so for this one, I usually like to cut, you know, the end and then the two sides of this and pour out the water. So I'm going to do that with this one. Just get rid of some of that water there. And then I've got my cutting board with a couple layers of paper towel. And we'll get rid of the water. We don't need that. Pressing tofu. This is what kept me from using tofu for a long time. It's like I wasn't sure what to do with it. What do you mean by pressing? How long do I have to press it? All of those kinds of questions. This extra firm tofu doesn't have quite as much water in it as most, so it doesn't require quite as long pressing. I bought a couple of tofu presses. They couldn't go in the dishwasher, so that annoyed me. I don't like to have to do that. And you don't have to have a tofu press to do the pressing. I did find one that I liked. It was all plastic, so everything can go in the dishwasher. And what happens is you put the tofu block in here after you drain off the water, and then you put the lid on and you can tighten down the lid. And so this is the one that I have, and I invested in because I have been using tofu a little bit more. But I'm going to show you a procedure today that doesn't require any press at all, no fancy equipment, and that's what we'll be using today. Now if you're going to press the whole block of tofu, it takes a little longer to get the water off, but what we're doing today is we're going to cut it up into pieces, and that way it won't take quite as long to press. And I want it to be a little drier than many recipes that I would use it for, because this one we're going to toss in some ingredients and we're going to bake it in the oven, so I want it to be chewy and crisp. So I want to get it dry. So let me show you how we're going to accomplish that. We're going to cut the tofu into cubes. All right. And so here's my block of tofu. I'm going to cut it in half this way. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it in fourths. And you could do 4 or 5 slices depending on the size of cube you want. I'm going to do 5. So that way, that way, that way, that way. And so I ended up with some nice bite-sized chunks of tofu. Okay, hang on just a second. I'm going to put it back in the bowl for just a minute. Okay, so here's how we're going to press it and get that liquid out. I've got a couple of clean dish towels right here. You could do this with paper towels. I tend to like something that I can wash and use over again, but a couple of clean tea towels, and we're going to put the chunks of tofu in one layer on top of the tea towel. I'll just pour them out here. Okay, get them all in one layer, all on top of that tea towel. And I've got another clean tea towel that I'm going to put on top of that, and the purpose of the tea towel is to absorb the moisture. And then you kind of want it to be pressed down a little bit. So let's put another cutting board on top, and then I have my cast iron skillet. Okay, so this is all probably stuff that you have in the house, and this is an easy way to do it if you don't want to invest in a tofu press. And for like this recipe, I want it really dry, so I cut it up into the smaller chunks to press it. So that's how I got my tofu ready for this recipe. Okay, so here are my pressed and dried pieces of tofu. This recipe is called crispy baked tofu. It's really easy, has minimal ingredients. We're going to start with some olive oil and some low sodium soy sauce, okay? And just a tablespoon of each. So I've got them in the bowl here. And a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm just going to drizzle it on top of the tofu. Got a tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. And give them a little toss so that I've got olive oil and tofu on all of the pieces. And then to make the tofu extra crispy and to dry it out just a little bit more, I've got a tablespoon of cornstarch. And in with the cornstarch, I added just about a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder to add a little bit more flavor. You could do it without the garlic powder and onion powder, just depending on what you're going to use this for after you have it baked. I'm going to sprinkle that mixture on top of my tofu. And again, I'm going to toss it up. I want to get all of the pieces of tofu evenly coated with the cornstarch mixture. And I really kind of want to make sure that I don't have any big splotches of cornstarch, that it's all been kind of absorbed, and I don't see any real dry spots on any of the tofu pieces. Okay, I think that's ready to go. Let me grab my cookie sheet. So I have a cookie sheet. I've got it lined with some parchment paper. And here's a little trick I learned and I'll pass on to you. Parchment paper, if you just take it off the roll and lay it down, it tends to like curl up and want to go places. And so what I learned is to bunch it up, crunch it up, and then when you get it smoothed out, it lays down better. And I think it adds to the not stickiness, if you will. So parchment paper is good because things don't stick to it very well, but this makes it even better. I just think something about having the crinkles in the paper, stuff doesn't stick to it as much. So there are my pieces of tofu. I'm gonna just dump them onto the cookie sheet. I wanna get them all in one layer. Okay. I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees. And so I'm going to put the tofu in there. It cooks for a total of about 25 minutes. Halfway through, so 12, 13, 15 minutes through, I'm going to go in and kind of toss them around just like meat or vegetables. You know, it's going to get darker on the bottom, so I'm going to flip them over and let them cook on the other side. And I'll put that one in the oven. I do have some that I prepared earlier. This is what it looks like when it comes out. I think you can see that. Nice, crunchy, brown on the outside. You can use this just like you would use chunks of chicken. So you could do it in a salad, and that's what I would like to do. Or you can put it in wrap sandwiches. Let's give it a taste and we'll see what I think about it. Pretty good. It's chewy. You got the savory onion and garlic powder in there. This could totally taste like chicken if it wasn't chicken. It's not. I hope you'll give tofu a try. Like I said, it's a very healthy food for us. And now that you see it's easy to prepare, maybe you'll want to do that. See you next time.